Hi everyone, welcome back. We want to welcome back Michal, who wasn't here last week.
Yeah.
She had a very good friend's wedding, but we're happy to have her back. Welcome to everyone, and we had a great session last time, Michal. Everyone was really great. They spoke on the video, and they were really, really great. So we're gonna build off of that and have another great session. Today's class is called "What's Worth Fighting For: Wars and Territories of Israel." And before we get started, as we always do, we start with an Israel moment. Most of the time, we try to start with something cool, something happy, something awesome that's happened in Israel. Today, we're going to start with something a little bit more sad, and we're actually going to dedicate this class in honor of Taylor Force. I'm going to share my screen. Hold on just 1 second, because I want to just get into present mode, and then we'll see. Okay, hold on. I'm sharing my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, you can see the picture? Michal, they're able to see? You're able to see?
Yep.
Okay, so this is Taylor Force. Did anyone, just because I can't see you guys in the picture, if anyone wants to say anything, did anyone hear about who Taylor Force was?
Anything in the news that you've heard maybe recently?
Okay, so Taylor Force, for those of you who don't know, he was unfortunately murdered last week in Tel Aviv, Israel. He was a graduate student at Vanderbilt University, which is a pretty famous university in the States. And he was actually on a class trip to Israel with his university. And not only was he a student, but he was also a war veteran. I'm pretty sure he was in an elite unit in the U.S. Army, and he served, I think, 2 tours in Afghanistan, and then after his service, he went to the university and he got married, and he came to Israel on a trip, and he was unfortunately murdered last week, very, very tragically, with some other people. And we just wanted to dedicate this week's class in honor of him. Sometimes I know it's a little hard to connect. There's a lot going on here. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not great. This is one of those really tragic things, but someone that comes from your country, who's just here just to visit, just to see the sights, just to learn about this land, and unfortunately his life was taken away way too soon. So this class is in memory of Taylor Force.
Great.
Anyone want to ask any questions? And anyone hear of this before? Yeah, Daniel, you heard of it? All right. So on your own time, you guys can look at, just if you would Google his name, you'll see more about him. Yeah. Jacob, you have a question?
Who did he get murdered by? Like Palestinians?
He was murdered by an Israeli Arab. So like a red, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I think it was someone from Tulkarm.
And in the port of Tel Aviv, I guess, by Palestine. And along with him, and I forget if it was in the same terrorist attack, because it happened to be that day there were 2 attacks. There was also another Palestinian man that was killed, another Israeli Arab that was killed, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, another Israeli, and a number of people injured.
Was he Jewish?
No. He was Christian.
Oh, okay.
Jacob, is your hand up?
Does my video look weird to everybody?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, can I log out and try and log back in and see if it works?
please.
Sure.
Okay.
It's freaky.
All right. Okay.
We've never had that before. The first.
Okay.
Okay.
We can continue.
Great. Okay, so let's get into our actual session today, what we're going to be talking about. And it's actually kind of connected because what we're talking about is not such good things, but something critical to learn about when you're learning about Israeli history. And that is what's worth fighting for. So let's just ask you the question first. What do you think is worth fighting for? Sorry, excuse. A bit slow. There we go. Yep, Danny. Sorry, do you want to speak up a bit?
Your family.
Your family. Okay. Anyone else? You can say if you don't think it's anything is worth fighting for. Peace, religion, justice, country, freedom, your life. Okay. That sounds... So a lot of people, there's a bit of not disagreement. There are a few different answers we've seen here. A lot of things. Okay, civil rights. Okay, when we talk about fighting, what do we mean when we say what's worth fighting for? Fighting in what way? Oh, thank you, Zach. Great minds. Guys? So all these things are values that we should stand up for. But when we talk about standing up for it, what do we mean? Anybody? I see people eating a lot, so you're not going to be able to talk if you're eating. Okay, well, we're going to look today in terms of fighting as wars at the moment, and we're going to see whether it's worth fighting all these wars. What are we worth? Why is it worth it, or is it worth it? Maybe we shouldn't be fighting so much. Maybe we should just give up and say enough is enough. So, firstly, if you remember, we've been over it a few times. Claim game. Okay, we spoke about that there are a few different claims to the land of Israel. Do you remember which ones we've discussed so far? I'm going to start picking people. Freedom, land. We were talking about what could you say gives you a claim to the land? There's biblical, historical, legal, military. So which of those have we already discussed? We've discussed when it's given to you, as in the biblical, right? Or legal. Architecture, you mean archaeology? We've discussed military, not really. Historical, yes. We discussed biblical, historical, and a little bit of legal when we looked at the UN vote. You looked at that last week, right? Okay, great. So today we're going to focus on the military claim. But before we do that, I want you to think about which claim you think is the strongest claim. So we're going to put in a link to a checklist.com poll, and you are going to vote on which of these claims is the strongest claim. In other words, if you could choose one of these claims to say to someone else that, you know, this land belongs to us, which one would you choose and why as well? We'd also like to hear in the comments why you chose that. Thank you, Zach, for the link. So everyone, please click on the checklist link and start voting. Okay, we're getting a few answers. So read the information that's there about all the claims. Oh, and I just noticed that when I wrote historical claim with the archaeological evidence, that Zach used that evidence last week in your icebreaker, right? Is your moment. We have a bit of a mix here. So far we've got about one of each, and the rabbi says all of them. This will be very interesting. Okay, we need a few more votes. We've only got Okay, keep going. If you haven't voted yet, get your vote on now. Okay. We still have a few people, I think, who haven't voted yet. Oh. I suggest you all read Rabbi Shelley's comment here. I think it's really important. Okay. Don't forget, some of these also overlap a little bit. I don't know where you could think of where they overlap. And I want to hear, thank you, Melissa, for saying why you chose the claim you chose. If you haven't yet done that and you have voted, please write down why you chose what you chose. Why is that the strongest claim? Why not the others? You can also talk it in. Wow, we have a clear majority actually at the moment. I thought it was going to be a lot closer. Very interesting. So a few of you said legal is the most certain kind of proof, right? You can't really fight it. Very interesting. Military. Okay. Great. Okay, I can see some really interesting answers. Okay, so all of your answers, definitely I think that all these claims together, as the rabbi said before, all point to the fact that this is our land and we belong here. And what we're going to talk about today is the military aspect, because we haven't really touched on the military aspect yet. So first we're going to find out what wars has Israel been through. We're going to learn a little bit about those wars, and I know that you've had a speaker come to speak to you about one of those wars. And Zach's going to explain, where are we, how we're going to do that. Shall we we'll first do a quick overview of all the wars?
Yeah, you could, just share the screen because my computer's a little...
No worries. There we are.
Oh, okay. So I don't want to go into so much detail about this, but basically there have been a number of very important wars in this country, and you could see them all here. You'll see one of the most important things about what you're seeing is that the wars are not so far apart from one another, right? So just going quickly, War of Independence. Can anyone just quickly say over the mic what they think the War of Independence was? Just quickly.
When we declared our independence for the state of Israel.
Awesome, great. So right when Independence Day War, they declared the state, all the Arab countries surrounding Israel, and Very interesting. I told you guys this last time. Very interesting, but more tragic. 1% of the population in Israel was killed in this war. That's a lot of people. 1%. Okay. If you continue on, you have the 6-Day War. Does anyone remember what the 6-Day War was? Can you give us a 30-second recap? How many days was the 6-Day War? Oh, great.
Yay.
Good.
Geniuses.
7 days.
Okay. Very quickly, the 6-Day War, which we'll get into a little bit more, basically was a very important war because, again, similar to the War of Independence, there were a number of countries that attacked Israel from the outside. And Israel not only won the war, but they won in very quickly, and they also gained a lot of territory. Right, so that wasn't the purpose of the war to win more land, but they got. And one of the major things that they got during that time was parts of Jerusalem, which at the time they did not have. So I talked about the Kotel, the Western Wall. That was the 6-Day War. The Yom Kippur War. When do you think that war happened?
You should all know something about this because you had a talk.
Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur, 1967.
No, that was the 1960s. That was 70.
1973. Sorry.
A very significant war, which was very hard for the Jewish people at the time. Lebanon War, again, was the first war that happened really just up in Lebanon. That's the north of Israel, just against Lebanon. The Intifada was, and then Intifada, without going into too much detail, the Intifadas were not wars against countries, but rather when there was terrorism going on inside of Israel. Right? So it was a very difficult thing. So I could tell you, truthfully, my sister was here for a year in Israel, and there were terrorists who would come into Israel, blow up buses and go into pizza shops and things like that. So it was the first time it wasn't happening outside in a war, but rather with civilians. And that was the Intifada, number 1, and number 2. The Lebanon War, again, was another war in Lebanon. And there were other ones, which I think Michal put in the next
yeah. Which we'll get to later.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a really who's doing that? Is that us?
All done.
Okay. Michal, is there anything else you want to add?
No. I think we'll get to what we're going to be doing about these wars. How we're going to learn more about them.
Okay. So let me share my screen. Okay, so we're going to be doing Michal will put the link in the chat box. But what we're going to be doing today, we're going to be dividing into groups. And in our groups, hold on, my computer, I apologize, my computer is not going so quickly today. Sorry.
Should I just share my screen and you can...
Hold on, I'm going. Yeah, you could share your screen, please.
Okay. Where do I want to share from? Yeah. Okay. Sorry, guys. There we go.
Okay, sorry. We've been pretty good this year with technical difficulties. That's the truth.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Temple Emanuel Israel Advocates. That's what all of you guys are. You guys are spending a year learning about Israel. Very important. You are now advocates of Israel. So you're all Israel advocates. Read and watch the information on the slide for your group and create your own social media Israel advocacy campaign on this website, canva.com. Okay, and well, if you don't mind going to just the next slide, Michal, or the next, actually two from here. Sorry. Okay, so here's an example of what we'd like you to see. Everyone, based on your last name, we divided up alphabetically, will be getting one war from Israel that they have to read about, watch a video. There's some information on the slides that you'll see. And there's also information that you could Google, Wikipedia yourself. And basically what you want to do is create a social media campaign which explains what you feel are the main parts of this war and the truth. Because one of the biggest issues is that a lot of the times these wars get spun around and against Israel rather than what Israel is doing well. Michal, if you could go back 2 slides, please. Right. Okay, so that's what we're doing. So you're going to go to this website, canva.com. The second slide of this, these are all the instructions. You can go, I don't have to go through them all yourself. It's pretty clear over here. So you're going to go to canva.com. You're going to register. You're going to create your own. Every person is going to create their own, even though you're divided in groups. It's basically every person in the group has to do their own activity. And if you go down on the bottom, number 8, it's a Google spreadsheet, which you'll see your name, and you could just post the link from your canva.com social media Israel advocacy and post it in there. So the idea is that you're going to get you'll learn about one war, you'll get all the information you can, and you try to not promote it, but teach about it, making people through social media or through this one website that we're going to do. And that way people can learn about it in a true and in more of a pro-Israel type of way.
Yep.
And all the instructions are there clear. I think we'll give you a while to do this, right, Michal? 10 minutes?
Yeah. Just to
I
remind
have a
you.
question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Are we, when we go on the website, are we supposed to, sign in with your email?
Yeah, just put in an email address and a password, and then you can register straight away.
Okay, thank you.
If you have any questions, please type them on the chat box. That way everyone can have quiet while they work.
Just one general announcement for everybody, that when you're looking at the videos on the Google slide, to watch the videos that are embedded, you need to click on present on the top right-hand corner of the Google slide presentation. And only then will you be able to access the videos that are there. So some of the videos, they might have a little play button. You can only watch that when you're in present mode. Great. And don't forget to mute yourself.
I have a question. Can me?
Please just type your question on. I wrote it. Yeah.
It's not letting me take any images. It's saying cost money for most images.
It won't let us like pick any password. Like we've tried like 10 things and it keeps saying they're all too easy.
It's saying that it costs money for all the pictures.
Add a background to this page. You simply go over to the Background tab. You can select from a flat color or from any
Mine's like really glitchy and it's not moving around.
Does it automatically save if we accidentally X out? Does it automatically save? Never mind.
Good job, Adina. Very impressive. There's some really nice things also Rabbi Kniaz. Okay, we're gonna have to finish up soon. I know you guys are working on it, want it to be perfect, but if you can just upload what you've done so far, so at least we can see something from it, that would be great. And I'd like you to also explain your war and your picture. So we're going to have to, wow, we really miscalculated time-wise. Thank you, Daniel and Ariel. Wow, this is great. It's like a meme, but a bit more. Okay, while everyone else is finishing up, Danny, I'm not sure why yours doesn't work out. While everybody is finishing up, why don't we get the people who started first? So Adina, do you want to just explain what war you researched and what was the infographic that you used?
I did the War of Independence, and I had when because it was when like the final vote went through to split Israel in half. Like the Arabs kind of went on. The Arabs started like a whole war to try to get their land back.
Right. And from which countries, do you know?
I think it's from the surrounding countries. From Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, Saudi Arabia,
Not
and
Saudi
Jordan.
Arabia. Jordan, yeah, you're right. Fantastic. Thank you, Adina. Yep, they were given the chance to have a state of their own, and unfortunately, that was the response that we got there. That it was a full-out war attacking a state that didn't even have an army yet, just so you know. Great. Thank you, Adina. Okay, somebody else who's done a design. I haven't looked at all of yours yet, but anyone want to describe the war that they researched? Even if you haven't put up your poster yet? Come on, guys. I know you're all perfectionists. Oh. Okay, some of these we're not actually seeing. Make sure to check the links that they work once you put them up. Because I'm looking at a few of them and it's not loading or saying problem. So just double check once you put it up that your link is working. Okay, as Zach said, make your link public. And then we'll be able to see it. Fantastic. Okay. So who wants to talk about we talk about the 1948 Independence War. Who wants to talk about the 6-Day War? Who researched the 6-Day War? Somebody whose last name starts between F and something or other else. No one researched the 6-Day War? Okay, 6-Day War. We spoke about it before a bit in... Okay, Danielle, great. Can we hear from you? Danielle? Just a very quick summary, please. Are you there? Can't see your video or hear you. Okay, 1967 war was the war, the 6-Day War, right? It was a war that we said it before. Jerusalem was captured in that war, and also large parts of the Sinai Desert. Okay. Next was the First Lebanon War. Who did that one? If you did it, please speak up now or forever hold your silence. Anybody? No. Okay. You know what we're going to do? Because no one is speaking up and we haven't got much time left, I think we are going to just look at something else here that is a bit extra. So some of you saw some really interesting things about some of these wars, and as we said before, there were lots and lots of wars. And you can see here that there were even more wars that we didn't even speak about. Some of them are called operations. An operation is essentially a war just for purposes of finances. The government doesn't call it a war. It's a whole long story. So all these operations were also wars that occurred more recently in history as well. And what we want to ask you is it too high a price Is it too much of a price fighting all these wars and so many soldiers dying? And these soldiers, 18-year-olds and up. So they could be someone's brother, someone's husband, someone's uncle, someone's father. Is it too much of a high price to pay? So we're just going to finish off with this story and see what Golda Meir answered this question when she was asked this question by a soldier. So we need three participants or three volunteers to read this story, three different parts.
I'll read.
Okay, great. Who was that?
Sarah.
Sarah, excellent. You can be the narrator. Who else wants to read?
Okay. One.
And then, wait. We need two other people to read.
Can I be the tank crew member?
Sure. Who was that?
Haley Myerson.
Okay, yes. So Haley. And who wants to be Golda Meir?
I'll be Golda Meir.
Okay, great. Golda Meir was the prime minister at the time, just a bit of background. Okay, go ahead, narrator.
One tank crew member, he seemed to be in his mid-20s, raised his hand. He was caked with black basalt dust from head to toe, and his only contrasting feature were the whites of his eyes.
Tank crew member.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I have a question.
He said in a voice throaty with exhaustion.
My father was killed in the War of 48, and we won. My uncle was killed in the War of 56, and we won. My brother lost an arm in the 16th War, and we won. Last week, I lost my best friend over.
He was pointing to the Valley of Tears.
And we're going to win. But is all our sacrifice worthwhile? Golda, what's the use of our sacrifice if we can't win the peace?
Okay, so Golda, you ready for your answer? Here we go. Let's see what she says. What is the use of all this sacrifice? Why? Here we go.
I weep for your loss, just as I grieve for all our dead. I lie awake at night thinking of them, and I must tell you, in all honesty, where our sacrifices are for ourselves alone, then perhaps you would be right. I'm not at all sure why they would be worthwhile, but if our sacrifice for the sake of people, with all my heart that any price is worthwhile.
Okay, so it's a very complicated issue. I don't know if you agree with this or disagree with it. But basically, what's Golda Meir saying here? Are these wars worthwhile? And if so, why? Danny, you don't agree? Daniel, you do? Why or why not? Okay, it's a complicated thing, so we won't be able to get into it now. But I want you to think about this question. If these sacrifices are for the sake of the whole Jewish people, then maybe it is. Maybe it is worthwhile according to Golda Meir. The question that then comes up is, how are we ever going to have peace if this is the case? And we are going to, for your independent exercise, you're going to look at this song called Shir LeShalom, a song of peace. And it's a YouTube clip with the Hebrew and English lyrics on it. And you're going to write your own verse about this song. We're going to look to the future, to a future of peace and not of war. And hopefully this will all be history and no one will actually have to say that they went through this. And on this liner board, you're going to add your own verse. And there's also a bonus question there you can answer. So I see a few answers here and I really want to respond, but we're running really, they do call their Prime Minister Golda, just like nowadays we call the Prime Minister Bibi, which is not particularly a fitting name for a Prime Minister, but everyone feels close. Yes, as this conversation shows, it's a very complicated thing. So we're putting the link in the chat box now, and I hope that you managed okay with the Canva. The Canva, where are we? The Canva thing. Let us know if you liked it, didn't like it. I know it's as a first time, it's a bit difficult to kind of navigate. So it took us some time, but I hope you understood more about some of the wars in Israel and started thinking about whether it's worth fighting for these things and what these wars mean.
Okay.
So we're putting the independent exercise in now into the chat box, and we hope you have a great week. Oh, there we go. And we will see you next week, the week before Purim, or 2 days before Purim. Look forward to seeing you then.